Okay. All right. I will talk to you a little bit. All right, bye. Okay. Now, hopefully this is working. I can't really tell. I have to find my own stream. All right. Hey, there we go. All right. Hey, guys. This is the first attempt. So, this is my office on the ship. Wow. I'm hearing all kinds of delays and echoes. I don't know if you guys are hearing this. And there's a major delay in the video, I see. Wow. Yeah, I just typed delays are killing me. Shut my YouTube audio? Where do I do that? Not this audio. Well, I don't think it's this audio. Maybe it is. I'm still getting these echoes. But when I change the direction of the camera, I still have that 20-second delay, which of course I understand. Okay. So, interesting. I also have some interesting photos that I took. This one I took a couple nights ago. This is the Globular Cluster in Hercules called Messier 13. Has tens of thousands of stars, which are really cool. And this next one, this was the Ring Nebula, M57, Messier 57, in the constellation Lyra. And this one is the remnants of a dying star. These are all test shots with the special camera that's sort of like Bill's, but it goes up to 409,000 ASA, and I didn't use anywhere near that with this. This is a galaxy called M82. This is in Ursa Major, and right next to it is this next one called M81, and that's pretty cool. I can set it up for low latency in the live stream page. 12 seconds is still... 12 seconds would be best. So I'm not sure how to do that yet. I'll have to dig that up. Yeah, I know. They are being very helpful to me. And I wish I had a good keyboard. I'm using this stupid keyboard that's supposedly ergonomic, and it makes my hands go to all the wrong places, which is terrible, but it'll be okay. Now, I need to understand the timing of events so that I know who sees what and when. So I'm not sure. Is it possible that when I change the screen, you see things? Actually, my screen is frozen. That's kind of weird. Okay. And my screen is frozen. I don't know why. I wonder if Wirecast shut down or something. How about now? Well, we'll know in a few seconds. Yeah, when I hook it up to the observatory, it's a different world. Different world. Why is this static? It's frozen. Ugh. That's what you do. You work out all the bugs first. Let me refresh and see if that does it. Oh, see? Refreshing actually does work. Yes, I hammed it up a little. I apologize. So the question, Bill and others who've done this, when you are actually streaming, and I got to get rid of this echo in my ear because I'm hearing my own voice coming back into my ears. It's almost like the Chinese water torture, but with sound. So it makes me wonder. And then I just heard me saying I hammed it up a little. I apologize again. Why am I getting that extra words? Holy cow. Uh, After like 20 or 30 seconds, I hear what I said 30 seconds ago coming back to me. Can you imagine how hard it is to talk when you're hearing that through your ears? Wow. Okay. I need one audio source, and I don't have one audio source. Unless I yeah, your video playing. No, I don't hear. Well, actually, you're right. If it is playing on my page, I have the audio. I have the audio muted. Muted. Okay. See, hearing the words makes me say words wrong too. Also, your audio from your headphones may be too loud and feedback. No, it's not. Good thought. I tried that. Yeah, we were there. I did mute the audio that was on my stream because I forgot that it's coming through my headphones. So that might have stopped the second 20-second thing that I hear. You know? But that's pretty good. Alright, and I know this is a boring stream. I apologize, guys. But this is what happens Oh, I see what you mean. Jello. 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 Hi, how are you? Hey, what's going on with that? Yes. You like my rivets? I have riveted steel rusting walls. Okay. Now back in Wirecast, let me just do this. Okay. In a few seconds, you should see the image come up that I just put up there. And I'm assuming there's that 20-second delay. The chat room's instant, but the stream is delayed. So you can get in trouble if you're watching your own stream. But having someone moderating it for you will help you, because you can then figure out what's going on. And once I get a mixer, I won't have to worry about this echo coming back in my ears. Because the audio capturing is going on a board inside the computer that I installed, and the audio capturing is also occurring. Well, it was occurring through Skype, but I quit Skype, so I'm getting this feedback loop in my ears. It's crazy. Oh, this is M81, by the way. This is a spiral galaxy, which is kind of like our own. And as I mentioned before, it's in space near this other one called M82, which should be up shortly. And M82 is actually called a starburst galaxy because it's got so much star formation going on. And I did a 10-second exposure of this, and this galaxy coming up is interesting because you can actually see in this 10-second exposure the source of all that star formation right in the center there. You see that orangey red area? That orangey red area is the source of the star formation. That's actually the stellar nurseries, one after the other. The dense clouds of hydrogen, doubly ionized, called H2 hydrogen, which is actually spurring tons and tons of stellar birth. It's incredible. And when the Hubble Space Telescope took imagery, it showed this area around this galaxy at least 10 times the size of the galaxy. So, and the reason is because this galaxy is actually interacting with the one you just saw, because they're very close in space. They're both about 11.5 million light years away. So that does mean that the light we're seeing from them was emanated 11.5 million years ago. I think that's pretty cool. So for 11.5 million years, in the time it took the light to get here, think about where we were 11.5 million years ago. All right. During that time on Earth, when the light was leaving these galaxies that we're seeing now, the Rift Valley in Africa, that made Olduvai Gorge, and it was the seat of our origin of our species. Olduvai Gorge was created at that point. That's when it was created, and there were a lot of volcanoes that were causing Rift Valley action. Absolutely incredible. So I think that's pretty cool. So I believe that this is actually working. Now, one of the next things that I wanted to mention, and by the way, we're going to show all these things live and many more. And we're going to, camera's going to rotate to them. You're going to see the cameras scrolling through the stars. And we're going to go on a sky tour. We're going to go to different places in the sky, because the computer-controlled telescope can just easily go to all these different places. And you see tons of stars. You see gas clouds like that. You see things like this, which is the um, this is the M57, the Ring Nebula that is really cool. And this looks like a ring, but it's actually a sphere. But if you hold your hand with your palm facing you, all right, and then you hold your hand sideways, you're looking through more of your hand, okay, than when your palm is just facing your face. So think of it as a sphere where around the edges of the sphere, if you were running your hands around it, as you run your hands around the sphere, as it goes around the edges, you're going through the edge of your hands. And you see it's thicker there. It's thicker through your hands. There's more skin, more tissue. But then you get to the back, and you only have to look through a tiny little, the back of your hand. So on the front and the back, that's what you get. And so it looks like a ring from anywhere you see it in space. And so that's pretty cool. And so that's why it's called the Ring Nebula. Now there's a lot of kinds of Ring Nebula, and some of them are called bipolar, and it doesn't mean they have attitudes that change moment to moment. It means that they have a jet of material coming out of their north and south, quote-unquote, polar locations. And these jets are due to the nature of the way the star died. And the thing is, with a nebula like this one, the material in the outer atmosphere of the star just sort of sloughed off slowly and made its way out into the universe as the star went past red giant stage, which I can explain. Our sun's going to go that way. We may have a nebula like this around our star someday. Right now we don't. Now we don't. But the bottom line is that if we look at this nebula for what it is, this is material in that ring, so to speak, that will fill our periodic table up to just before iron. Iron's number 26, and we have over 100 elements in the periodic table. So you say, well, where did the rest of them come from? Were they all made in the laboratory? How they work? Well, they weren't. They were actually made in the cores of the stars. But when up to element 26, iron, when stars are doing their normal process of burning hydrogen into helium, okay, when they start running out of hydrogen, they take the helium and it starts burning into carbon, then nitrogen, then oxygen, and it just goes on and on. So the cool thing is that when we see a nebula like this, we're literally watching the universe repopulate the elements in our periodic table, because this way that a star dies, this way is sort of benign. Now, not for people on a planet surrounding a star in the middle. Okay, you can barely see the central star in there. It's a magnitude 14, which is fairly dim. But at magnitude 14, that star probably could have hosted planets, when it was normally burning. It might have been a magnitude 7 or 6 star. So a lot brighter, a lot more energetic, not more able to support a habitable zone around the star. But this star ran out of hydrogen at some point, and it bloated into this giant, this big red giant. When a star gets bigger, it gets redder because the temperature drops. So then the star would eventually begin to collapse again after a bunch of other processes. And as it does that, it's leaving behind these outer layers. So no, that's not how big the star was. Okay, those layers are coming off at some speed. And that speed is determined by the energy of the radiation pushing out. So it's pretty cool. And so eventually, because nothing's stopping it, that shell of expanding material just keeps on going, keeps going. And then you get this. You see this. Um, so this particular type of nebula could be mistaken for a planet. So that's because if you squint at it, it kind of looks like it's a round, bigger object than a star. So they're called planetary nebulas, but they have nothing to do with planets. They're actually the result of a star that's actually dying and has died. So the star, when it begins to shrink back down from that red dwarf stage, it ends up going to a stage where it becomes very very small and hot, and we call it a white dwarf. All right, and white dwarf has very compressed material on its surface, um, really strange material. It's very dense, and it's really cool to see how white dwarfs form and what they do. Our sun will become a white dwarf someday. And the weird thing is we have to look at terminology. Stars are called dwarfs when they're running normally like our sun. Well, our sun is anything but a dwarf. It's 1,000,000 miles across, nearly. It's 865,000 miles across. But at that diameter, it still has uh, the ability to uh, to warm us and to create a habitable zone. And when it grows into a red giant, we're 93 million miles away, remember, from our sun. When it grows into a red giant, it's going to end up shrinking back down. But in that growth is going to completely swallow out to just past the Earth's orbit. And we're going to be destroyed. The Earth is literally going to be incinerated. There won't be an Earth left. So this is why we have to leave this planet in the next 4 to 5 billion years. Right now, we're enjoying the middle of our star's life, but in 4 to 5 billion years, we won't, and it will stop. So planetary nebulae are interesting because they show the end stage of a star's life. It's the last stage, and as a parting gift to the universe, these planetary nebulae that slough off their outer layers are repopulating our periodic table, and that's just so cool. And the way you get the elements past iron in our periodic table is not with benign efforts like this, but with larger stars that run out of hydrogen, become extremely unstable, and when the radiation pressure outward from the nuclear reactions, it's called nucleosynthesis. When that stops, the star just abruptly collapses. Now we're talking massive stars, 10, 20, 30 times the size of our sun. And when you've got that much mass collapsing onto a core, which is iron, all right, because iron is the last element that a star can make in normal processes. That iron doesn't give. So when the stars rebound, when the star hits that, the material from the outer, as it's contracting, the material hits that and bounces off in this massive explosion that you already know is a supernova. And we can see supernovas in other galaxies, and that's something I could do with this observatory. We can actually look at other galaxies and see supernovas like no problem. All right, and that's the kind of thing that would be interesting to have people search for, you know. Now, so that's star death. That's these planetary nebulae and what they do. Now, there's other things out there that are really fascinating, and one of them is something that'll come up shortly, and that is something called a globular cluster. These are really weird objects because they consist of 10,000 to 100,000 stars very closely packed together. They look like an exploding snowball of stars. And as you can see, this one, is called M13, Messier 13. In the 1800s, Charles Messier he put together a catalog of 103 objects, and these 103 objects were objects that he said you don't want to look at and be confused for comets, because he was a comet hunter. And so he put together this catalog and inadvertently came up with amateur astronomers' best friends, and these fairly bright objects. So Messier 13, this is in Hercules, the constellation. This one it's large, and these stars are all interacting with each other. They're orbiting each other, they're moving around each other. At the fringes, some may be leaving the cluster, being gravitationally flung right out or something. So it's a very large, very dynamic area. Now, if you were in this, you might see a lot of fairly bright stars in your sky. Maybe you might see 400 stars like Sirius, which is the brightest star in the northern sky, at various places in your sky. Because as compact as this looks, once you're there really still some distance between them. Now, that said, as a unit, they all act together and orbit the galaxy. So they orbit each other like planets orbit stars, but then together they all orbit the galaxy. It's really neat, you know. I wish that in Clerk's story, he writes, I would love to wait for a 4K stream. I can stream in 4K. I'd like to do that. And I don't have a card that can do that yet. When there's, well, actually, Bill will know this if the Blackmagic card that I have can actually stream at 4K. I think it can. That's why it's called the Pro 4K. Duh. Anyway, I know this is just a test stream, guys, and you know, it's the first time I've ever done this live, just to see what's going on. There's a lot of mechanics to work out. I'm still in my office with the camera, as you saw, and what I'm doing in the office is setting up the observatory computer, which is, you know, this computer that you'll see in a few seconds. And this is going to be installed in the observatory full time, and it's going to be used for all the streaming, all the interaction. I'm hosting a podcast tonight, which you may have seen, and the podcast is it's a podcast UFO, and Martin Willis is coming down from Maine, and he's setting up his gear, and we're going to do a live stream from the observatory. You probably saw that, though, on the website, so I apologize for throwing that at you again. But so there's the computer, and that's going to handle all the tasks. So I think that'll be pretty worthwhile. I like seeing how you can see the latency occurring right there on the screen. You can see how it's just weird. That'll take some getting used to, but we'll see what happens, you know. and Jello, my office is not classified, but I mean, my shop, which is through the door you'll see in the distance, that's a different story. But that's neither here nor there. So. Oh yeah, I'm using thanks Nancy, I'm using a 5-gallon Home Depot pail bucket as just a quickie mount for my computer. At one time I had 10 computers running in here, and right now I've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I've cut them in half. You know, that's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and there's if you look up there, you can see there's a hook hanging from the ceiling. And it's a bloody hook. That's only because my son, who's in film school, He used that hook in a zombie movie, and he never cleaned it off. So I put it back up there. It's attached through a hole in the ceiling, and there's a pocket up there, and it's attached with a magnet. Because this whole office is actually a simulation of a battleship, and I went on and I took a lot of photos and got them all accurate. Then I came in here and I reproduced everything from the weld beads to the rivets, and I-beams on the ceiling, and you can even see that snaking corrugated, looks like dryer duct going on the ceiling. Those are actually called cableways, and in here they were, I called them GNDN lines. That meant goes nowhere, does nothing. But then, as you can see, there's other cables hanging underneath them. And I started putting real stuff through the cables and actually utilizing them. So then they became goes nowhere, does something cables. So that's a little, yeah, that's a little stuff there, little trivia. On the right side there, you can actually see that's an air cleaner hanging off the wall because it's close to the shop, which is that brown door in the distance. And that brown door, sometimes doesn't keep out the stuff, and like, I'll show you this because we're doing a tour, I guess. This may not be totally in focus, but we'll see. This object that'll show up in a few seconds, this is the workstation in the office where I actually have a 3D printer. I have 3 of these. Not this one. I have a SolidScape one which can print something as smooth as a Coca-Cola can. And then I have another one which is what's called a rep wrap. And then they have this one. This one is a commercial one, a Lulzbot. And this one can print out some very, very nice stuff. Just because of the fact that, it's a commercially available. It does a lot of really neat printing things. And I actually print off from my U.S. Geological Survey site. I actually download sections from Mars and the Moon, actual maps, and I actually can create these. And so here's, this is not in focus for sure. I'm going to try and focus this. I need the live view. Hang on a sec. Not that anyone cares, but this is like a lunar crater, and this guy, you can see that. So that's the exact topography of that lunar crater. Here's another one, which is the exact topography of another lunar crater. And I know they're not quite in focus. I can't really see the screen I'm doing. I'm looking like an acrobat if you saw me right now. So I use that to do my USGS prints that I want, and I use them for teaching around the country when I go teaching. So it's pretty cool stuff. So in the end, the bottom line is that the idea is to have a way to communicate with everybody and give them a good show, so to speak. And I think this will be something that's cool. So, yeah, it's a little show and tell. But as we move forward, it should become a little bit more interesting. Because I will be doing the live sky tours. And if I actually can get a second camera going, and Bill will know this, what I might do is have a second camera and actually have it on the observatory, you know, showing you from the inside what's going on, because there's really a lot going on that goes on in that observatory while observing. And like I said, the telescope is computerized, and you can tell it where to go, and it just goes. But I have to monitor it, and you know, whoever's there who can monitor it is cool. And it's in Connecticut right now, and that is going to change. I mean, and in about 2 years, maybe 1 or 2 years, after I work out the bugs for automating, I'm moving it to Arizona, and it's going to a very dark sky location, which I'm going to go scout for in July. So I will be out there for a week or two and just digging through the various areas out there to see what's areas best. I have a dark sky map that shows where the areas are that are the most affected by bright light that you might face, you know, if you're in your observing night. And the map is something that is well known, it's published, and you can actually find a site that is actually dark, so dark that you can't see your hand in front of your face. And that's where I'm going. I'm going to go there. And I'm going to put this observatory there. And to make sure no one messes around with it, I will surround it with a fence. And then put United States Air Force property or something on it. And no one will mess with it. Of course, I probably shouldn't have told you all that, all 7 of you. Anyway, that's the stream. That's what I'm doing. So I don't know if this is going to be the best thing, but I'm really looking forward to it. And I hope to see you soon. I will be wrapping it up here. If I could just figure out how the heck to do that. I'm probably stuck all day. Wow. Well, 38 minutes already. That's pretty cool. Anyway, I hope you guys are, you know, doing okay. Thanks for hanging out for a while with me and checking it out. I'm really fascinated by this whole thing. This is a new way to do outreach. So once again, thank you all, and I shall see you again. I'll make announcements on Facebook and through other social media as well. And if I do, I just finished filming season 4 of What on Earth for I don't know if they're on Discovery Channel or History Channel, but whatever. And NASA's Unexplained Files, I did season 5 as well. So if they let me, I'll sneak in a couple of shout outs to the stream on those shows and see if they can let it through. That'd be funny to see. But either way, thanks for everything, guys. I shall talk to you again soon.